Are we connected, my BlackJupiter? Hey, what's up? I'm Agent Random. So, Deltarune. A couple months ago, chapters 3 and 4 came out, and they were great! No better excuse to put every other priority in my life on ice for a little bit. I played every chapter up to completion, top to bottom, and was content to just let it be there. But then, the horrors. The brain rot set in. I couldn't just let the experience be done there and sit with it. I needed to discuss what was at play here. I mean, come on, if I don't do it, then who else would? Oh, who cares? I'll just pick a more minor character to analyze. Yeah, that'll give me something unique to talk about. Let's see here, Ram? Wait, no, he's British, I would never. Jockington? Nah, he just plain scares me. Oh yeah, the dude that runs the grocery store, Mr. Sans. There's no way anyone's analyzed him so far. Why do I hear boss music?
Fear me, mortal, for thou hast spoken the unholy words that may summon me.
Oh, hey, Domo. Why are you still here?
Someone was talking about Undertale. That's my thing. No one's allowed to talk about Undertale if I'm not there.
Oh no, I was actually talking about Deltarune. I've never played Undertale.
What?
I mean, it's not important or anything, right?
It might be. A little bit.
Oh, really? I thought it wasn't canon. Is Susie even in it?
What? No. Wait, didn't we play Undertale Yellow together once?
No, we didn't.
Okay. Well, I don't know if you've heard, but Sans is just a little bit important in Undertale, and you can't understand him in Deltarune without having played Undertale first.
Oh, really? Well, I guess I'll have to go play it then. $3?
Yeah, it's pretty cheap.
That's $3 whole! I don't want to spend that!
Buy the game!
But it's $3 whole!
Go buy Peak now.
No! Can you just explain the stuff to me I missed?
Fine. Okay, so at the start there was a war between humans and monsters, and then all the monsters got locked in the underground.
Yeah, skip all that and just talk about Sans.
Alright. Unlike Deltarune, Sans incorporated far more into the main story. Right after entering the Snowden area, you walk through this very creepy forest with a mysterious figure following you. And when they finally reveal it's Sans, it's him tricking you with a whoopee cushion.
Okay, he's still doing his jokes and bits. That seems pretty on brand for Mr. Sans as I know him. What's so different about him in this game?
Well, we see a lot more of his brother, Papyrus. He tries to set up traps to trap the player character, and Sans is naturally included through these encounters for gags that bounce off the two. Sans seems to dote on Papyrus a ton, giving him situations to see the player and even telling us to engage with his traps to make Papyrus happy. Despite that, he still remains very playful, lightly antagonizing him for jokes and puns to his annoyance. It's clear they have a strong bond. We learn in Snowden from the shopkeeper that they apparently randomly appeared together one day in Snowden and asserted themselves into the community. So as far as the player knows, they've been together forever.
They just showed up out of the blue? Interesting. Anything else weird about them?
With Sans? Definitely. In most of Snowden's areas, Sans is just there. Go to one room and then to the next, and he just seems to have teleported to the next expecting you there. If you were just enjoying your time with the game, you may not notice it, but it's almost like Sans is tracking you down and watching you as you operate through Snowden, and he continues this to a lesser extent throughout the game after Snowden. Soon after, he invites you to the Grillby's diner for a chat, and after pranking you, he somehow spawns a spotlight over you and then starts talking about a talking flower, immediately bringing to the mind of the player Flowey, who they would have met earlier. But then, Sans goes on to say he's talking about echo flowers found in a marsh in the underground. It is now very clear that Sans knows way more than he should and has abilities we have not seen a character up to this point have. Although he plays it off, he somehow knows about Flowey and almost taunts you on your connection to him, but plays it off as if he has no idea what he's talking about.
It's almost like he's trying to bait us into saying Flowey's name first.
You can then eat with Sans again in Hotlands, where we are given a further look into him. He makes a comment about the player potentially missing home. It says he knows the feeling well. Sans continues to talk and then explains he's interacted with Toriel back in the ruins.
Bro cannot just stay away from this woman.
And we learn the entire reason he's been following the players because she asked him to. He's been following us to protect us for her. How sweet.
Wow, this version of Mr. Sans sounds so nice. I was thinking he was some kind of threat, invading our home and everything.
Yeah, and then he says that if Toriel didn't tell him to protect us, that we'd be dead where we stand.
Oh.
But it was a joke apparently, so everything is fine. He remarks how he's been doing a great job protecting us since we haven't died once.
Wait, what if you haven't actually died before?
His dialogue slightly changes.
Interesting, so he knows about your ability to reload saves?
Yep. So this is the point we realize Sans is not the person he's been displaying himself as. He knows about resets, has been following us specifically, and could have easily killed us at any time apparently. It's a bit unnerving, seeing his usual facade purposely slip on us. He also leaves right after without allowing us to respond or question him. He's very aware of how our impression of him has changed, and it's all intentional. We then next see Sans in the King's Castle, in something called the Judgment Hall. At that point, Sans fully lets go of that nonchalant persona for just a bit. He talks about judging you for all your actions, and talks about your capability of violence and what it means for the people around you. He brings up game concepts such as EXP and LV, which he somehow knows about, and then further explains are acronyms that have totally different meanings from what we would expect. This means that somehow, some way, Sans is actively aware of game mechanics, only otherwise seen by Flowey in this game, and had the ability to watch you at every single moment within the game, not just when he was on screen. Sans will have many different reactions depending on what you've done in the game, including calling you a dirty brother killer if you slay Papyrus and having dialogue that needs you to reset to keep getting. Again, reinforcing how he knows about your ability to do those resets.
Okay, so Mr. Sans is just secretly cracked. Sure, why not?
If the player manages to get to the pacifist route's final boss, they will encounter Sans' lost soul. He has dialogue that says, "Just give up. I did. Why even try?" As we've seen earlier, Sans has a far more messed up mental state than he lets on, and most of the lines here seem to be projection that is forced upon us.
So all this time, instead of doing all this judgment crap, he could have just gone to therapy? Well, you said this was the pacifist ending, so I guess everything does work out for him.
And then in the genocide route, Sans is the final boss.
Oh, there it is.
He's able to break game mechanics again by doing things like dodging and attacking inside the menu. He also has extremely interesting dialogue, mentioning he has the ability to monitor timelines, which would explain his apparent knowledge over resets. And for perhaps the most interesting thing in the fight, when you kill him, he bleeds.
I mean, same. What's the big deal?
Well, here in Undertale, monsters simply turn to dust when they die, no blood included, unlike in Deltarune where monsters are confirmed to both bleed and turn to dust. And right after Sans bleeds and walks off screen, we hear this, the sound effect for a monster turning to dust.
Surely this has no connection whatsoever to the video game Deltarune.
That's what we thought back in 2015. Because at the time of Undertale's release, there was no Deltarune or any indication toward it, so Sans remained an extremely perplexing and interesting oddity.
Okay, I'm beginning to see that this guy has a lot of wild stuff at play.
And you still don't know the half of it. Sans, like a small amount of other characters, is directly able to manipulate game mechanics, which may not seem odd since we have other examples, but it's very confusing considering what we know about him. He's a random monster that appeared in Snowdin one day with his brother, and somehow is able to know about EXP, LV, resets, and can even alter the conditions of his fight to try and win. We only otherwise see massively powerful characters like Flowey, who's high in determination, or debatably boss monsters to a degree to be able to do this.
So wait, if quote normal monster Sans can do all this weird stuff, then he's totally keeping a lot hush-hush.
And then there's his garage.
Is what?
In Snowdin, you can gain access to the garage of Sans Papyrus' house, and it has some very interesting but vague things inside it. We see some type of contraption that is covered up, and by inspecting the blueprints on the table, we find out it's some type of machine, but not much more than that. Inside the two drawers, we see photos of a smiling Sans along with some people the player does not recognize, along with a badge. In the 1.001 update, after talking to a certain NPC, a card is found in the drawer. It's a drawing of 3 people, with the words "Don't forget" written on it.
Wait, that's a thing!
Yeah. Maybe you were piecing some things together, but let's come back to that in just a little bit. There's one major thing I'd like to talk about. I'm sure you've heard of W.D. Gaster by now, right?
Oh yeah, he's that spooky voice from the start of Deltarune. Or, wait, no, is he the guy behind the tree? No, wait, he's...
Yeah, good enough. Well, his first mentions were in Undertale, and one of his only mentions are via text in an inaccessible room that's written in a font called Wingdings, and through NPCs called Gaster followers that are fun value events.
Oh, okay. Hey, wait. Mr. Sans' name is a font, and he speaks in the font. That would mean that the WD stands for Wingdings!
Exactly. He shares the font naming scheme with Sans and Papyrus, and one of his possible sprites can be interpreted as skeleton-like. Oh, I also forgot to mention a connection even more obvious than that. The skull blasters he uses in his fight are just called Gaster blasters.
Wow, what did people even think all of this meant when there is no Deltarune?
The community formed many theories about him, as at this point Undertale is all we had to go off of. Let's quickly go over some big ones.
Okay, I just did a quick Google. Looks like Game Theory put out one about Sans.
Here, lick this duct tape for me.
Oh, okay.
Much better. One theory that was big was that Sans is either from another world or another time. As mentioned earlier, Sans has multiple pieces of dialogue referencing that he is missing a place and he wants to return, but is filled with apathy and finds the possibility pointless. There is some more info on this too, seen in him telling Papyrus about the sun, which Papyrus does not know about but somehow Sans does. There's also the picture of Sans smiling around unknown individuals, which could be people the player does not recognize from the underground, but taking into account a lot of the context of Sans' dialogue, I think it makes sense to assume that these are people from wherever he was before. At this point, people thought the machine in Sans' workshop may have been a time machine, sticking him in a time different from his own. This would explain his knowledge over timelines, not just resets, which has really yet to be brought up by other characters. It is also possible he's just from a completely different world, since the machine could have let him travel upon alternate timelines to different worlds. Either way, all the evidence points to Sans just not being from the underground, but possibly another world. A world where he had different friends and a different life, one he wants to go back to but feels like he no longer can. Another minor part of this theory is the Riverman, who has a line that reads, "Tra-la-la, beware of the man who came from another world." It is theorized that this is either about Sans or Gaster. I wonder what that world could be. You can take that off now.
That tasted awful.
Another incredibly plausible and likely theory is that Sans may have worked with Alphys as a royal scientist, possibly among Gaster. Alphys became the head royal scientist after Gaster, and some dialogue between Sans and Alphys seems to hint towards them knowing each other. In entry 17, found in the aforementioned inaccessible room, there's a line that says, "What do you two think?" which could possibly mean Sans and Alphys, or also thought to be Sans and Papyrus due to the font naming connection. A sort of major theory going on around this time is that Sans bleeding was actually ketchup. Since at this point we only knew that monsters would turn to dust when dead, there had to be an explanation for Sans bleeding. This, for some, was easily explained by Sans' affinity for ketchup. I personally never liked this one, since I think it takes the seriousness and the mystery of the scene away, but it was certainly there.
I mean, it's not like anyone thought there was going to be another game anytime soon.
True. Another one that was somewhat popular is that Sans at one point was a human. Humans have special powers based on their soul, with determination allowing the saving and reloading, and in general, the altering of game mechanics. This could explain his ability to mess with and know about game mechanics, and potentially explain him bleeding and even possibly sweating.
Not proven until we see the man use the bathroom.
And also, he's the only person in the game to have toilet paper.
Oh, well, there you go.
And that's pretty much everything that we could know about Sans going into Deltarune. As for Deltarune itself...
Oh, okay, I got Deltarune. I played this one. We first meet Mr. Sans at the end of chapter 1, where Bro is just chilling in front of the local convenience store, which is also named Sans. You have the option to say nice to meet you again, which Sans will comment on, saying that he has never met you before. Then he admits to befriending your mom last night.
But hold on. As you walk away, he invites you to hang out with his brother, which if you played the game, you know it's time to see Papyrus. Papyrus time!
Hold your horses, that's for tomorrow. Papyrus tomorrow. Actually, no, wait, because the interaction has sort of a smoking gun for Sans. When you reply to Sans' hangout invitation, Sans' response actually changes depending on how long the player takes to respond, with Sans either commenting on how Chris responded too fast or really had to think about it. This is played off as a joke, but with all that Undertale info you just crash coursed me on, this shows us that Sans retains his awareness of meta elements in Deltarune, which is a big deal because no one else in this game seems to do that. No one else in this light world seems to do that.
Actually...
Okay, we'll just put a pin in that for right now. We'll come back to it later. In chapter 2, we see Sans attending his janitor duties and befriending your mom even further.
Where's Papyrus?
There's no Papyrus.
No!
Now Sans in chapter 3. Sans in chapter 4.
Clopin.
Okay, so chapter 4 is a crazy one, right? 3 whole dark fountains, you're beefing with the roaring night, you have to slay a titan, and all because you think Toriel might be in danger, only for you to go home and find Sans befriending your mom. It's just a bad time to be Chris.
Buddy, I don't think there's a good time to be Chris. But let's go ahead and connect these two games. So remember earlier I mentioned that talking to an NPC would unlock the Don't Forget note in Sans' workshop? This NPC is Clamgirl. She mentions a neighbor's daughter, named Susie. This is different from the spelling seen in Deltarune, so it could be argued that it is different, but the Nintendo Switch version adds a fun value event where Clamgirl becomes a goner, and says the time to meet Susie is fast approaching. This would indicate it is indeed Deltarune Susie, as Deltarune would release shortly after this.
Oh my gosh, it does have Susie!
Sans' garage is full of references to Deltarune, as I made reference to earlier. A picture with 3 people together that says Don't Forget implies this is Susie, Relsey, and Chris in the drawing. The badge found in the drawer could possibly be a reference to the badge symbol found on the keypad in chapter 4, but this one is more of a stretch. The picture of Sans smiling around others could also be referencing the individuals from Deltarune, as the main trio is no one seen in the overworld. This gets more complicated if characters like Toriel are brought into the picture, but that's speculation for now. Ice-E is a mascot for a pizza chain scene in Deltarune that makes an appearance in Undertale, when Sans gives the player a crossword from the restaurant and is otherwise absent.
Dang corporate shill. Oh hey, wait a second, that really long answer on the crossword is the answer to one of the puzzles in Deltarune chapter 2. You know, Gasfelfe Braper.
Let's speed round a few more. Papyrus nicknames his trash Trashy, and in chapter 2 we see a trash can character with the same name.
Whoa.
This probably means nothing.
Oh.
Sans' bedroom door is the fast travel door from Deltarune, and Papyrus says that his room is like a portal to another world. In the Undertale 10th anniversary stream that may or may not have happened as we wrote this video, Gasser's door is literally just Sans' door. Okay, and lastly, Deltarune makes a big deal about the colors pink and yellow due to an association with this friend character. Pink and yellow appear together in Undertale as the colors of HP and Karma in his boss battle.
That dang cat!
Deltarune's hometown includes both the Grillby's Diner, which Sans turned into a grocery store, and Sans' home. These are some of the only buildings in town to basically be directly ripped from Undertale. Tenna mentions a blue stop sign.
Does that mean he met Sans?
No. One of the most interesting details about Undertale and Deltarune is found in the Chapter 3 Sword game. Going through the game, we see enemies that represent many monsters from Undertale, including a flower, a fish, a yellow dinosaur, etc. But one enemy type is missing. For how important Sans and Papyrus are to Undertale, not a single skeleton enemy is seen in the minigame. Very, very odd.
Oh man, there's even a bird there for Birdly, and he's not even in Undertale.
True, though he likely does exist just off-screen.
Okay, so with all of the information provided, I think we have a pretty solid case for a few possible Sans explanations here. But they're all probably gonna hinge on the same one idea, that Sans Undertale and Sans Deltarune are the same guy.
You finally caught up with 7 years of fandom. It's likely that the Sans we meet with Deltarune predates the Undertale version, since he lacks all the nihilism that Sans Undertale had in practically every scene.
Though that would kinda change his relationship with Toriel that you mentioned, doesn't it? Since he already befriended her in another reality, rather than him just happening to connect with a stranger?
Well, yeah, that's most likely the reason he goes out of his way to interact with Toriel in the underground, despite how hard it would be, since she locks herself in the ruins. He loves your mom in any reality.
Whatever. If we choose to assume that these two Sanses are one and the same, then this explains how Sans did his "I can tell you took a bathroom break" during his dialogue selection trick, since he's constantly using his knowledge of and limited control over game mechanics in Undertale for the purpose of silly little bits.
Can we talk about this now?
Okay, yeah. So, if I understand correctly, unlike most meta-abilitied Undertale characters, Sans does not possess an abnormal amount of determination.
Right, he doesn't have a soul that's obviously anything out of the ordinary, like, say, a boss monster. Although we don't ever actually see his soul, which may be intentional.
Right, so he's very possibly just plain built different. And he isn't the only one like this, since at least Susie for sure also has a similar innate awareness and ability to manipulate the game's boundaries like Sans does. But unlike Sans, she's much less aware that this is something that she can do. Probably the easiest point of comparison that I can make is that Susie can also decide that to respond to certain dialogue choices and interrupt you. These are the only two characters in the game to show any awareness at how long the player takes to respond to dialogue. Even the fluffiest, most big-shotted, chaos-enthused, freedom-obsessed characters do not do this. And of course, Susie has tons of other moments where she's shown to take control away from the player and the narrative itself, but I'm sure you get the idea there. And if we dip our toes into the weird route, Noelle also likely has this ability, since she is also able to derail the game's narrative. This is likely what makes Noelle so attractive to the weird route player, since Chris absolutely does not have this ability, and unlike Susie, Noelle is very easy to manipulate.
Bad pull on the player assignment. 2 whole kids in this town that could have let you play God for all we know, and we end up with a kid who's got heaps of emotional baggage and no reality controlling powers to show for it.
Give us one more chapter, I think you might have found a fix there. Okay, but wait. Same Sans as Undertale and the same powers, at least over game mechanics. And you said he used that heightened awareness to suss out Frisk. Would he not use that same power to suss out Chris as something? Like, could he not tell that Chris is, like, possessed or whatever?
Interesting point. In Undertale, he met Frisk, did a joke that he does in all timelines to filter out if they were a time traveler, then spent a while observing Frisk but not getting into direct contact with them before befriending their mom.
Aha. Those steps look awfully familiar to how Sans treats Chris in Deltarune. Mom befriendment just after not getting directly involved in the relevant conflict, just after an introduction with silly jokes. Heck, maybe if Chris could remember the other saves, they wouldn't have fallen for the idiot baby's hotline trick twice, just like Frisk doesn't fall for the whoopee cushion trick twice. Potentially a joke that Sans does in all timelines, just in case. Anyway, if we choose to assume that Sans is onto Chris, that would mean that any action that Sans takes around Chris is directly part of an investigation into them. As for what would put Chris on Sans' radar, well, one of the first things that the game lets you say to him is basically a blatant, "Hey, I remember you from another world!"
And Sans may not even need that, since in Undertale, he can read Frisk's whole deal just off their facial expressions. It wouldn't be out of the question for Sans to be able to read Chris's deal the second they start speaking.
And once that interaction does happens, Sans forces another before Chris can walk away and gives him the invitation for the brother hangout. But when Chris shows up ready to follow through, it doesn't happen. So what was even the point of the invitation? Maybe it was another test to see if Chris, or whoever's in charge of the body, would be drawn to other people that they may have yet to re-encounter from another world. We also possibly see Frisk fail the "Are you from another world?" test in Undertale, since Sans would likely also observe that Frisk has zero reaction when presented with a picture of Icy.
Okay, mini theory. So you know how I pointed out that it looks like Sans ported his house from Undertale straight over to Deltarune? Well, if Sans is from Deltarune originally, then it's actually more likely the other way around. But in that case, who's to say that it's even his house?
Huh, wait, surely they say that somewhere in the game.
Nope, not once. And you know for a fact that Toby Fox does that kind of stuff on purpose. No way that's actually Sans' house.
Okay, so I think we've made it pretty clear that Sans likely has some degree of relevance in Deltarune's plot, but at what point is he entering the main fold? Common speculation online says that he'll end up as our secret boss come Chapter 5. You know, when the game freaking ends, apparently. Since all of the previous secret bosses have unique soul modes.
Right, and so far, the only two soul mode colors we haven't seen reappear from Undertale are blue and purple, and Sans' fight has the blue soul.
Yeah, the Genocide one, right? And I'm reading here that the other two Genocide exclusive fights are against Undyne the Undying and Mettaton Neo, which, if I'm correct, both of which have been homaged in two of the previous secret bosses. And also, every chapter so far has shown us a new monster in the Dark World, sort of. And while we're likely to see Asgore, if the chapter's about jealousy, Sans could join in too. There's also a really neat Twitter thread about how Sans would really work as a 1v1 for Ralsei. I'll leave a link below, but the TLDR of it is that both Chris and Susie have solo secret fights, but Ralsei is yet to have one. Now that Ralsei's arc has really starting, Sans seeing through Ralsei's lies by reading his face could be very interesting, since Sans 2 is going to, or under a different interpretation already has, been in a position of being trapped somewhere with no hope to escape. No freedom, fate out of his control, something that Ralsei is beginning to come to face.
That probably fits with how the game draws a parallel between Ram and Sans in Chapter 3, with both showing up one day and making the same joke about having the usual as if they had always been there, but never truly being able to fit in. It said that Ram always does what's best for Chris, which maybe connects Sans and Ralsei even more.
True. And from what you've told me, since you can only kill Sans at the end of the Genocide route, there's no one left to shed a tear for him either.
Okay, that's great and all, but I can't help that you haven't mentioned Papyrus in a while.
Okay, what do you want me to say? He's the Roaring Knight?
Okay, we're gonna play a fun game here. Look at his bedroom door.
Uh-huh.
Now look at Dessa's closet.
Oh no.
And when you go on a date with him in Undertale, this plays. And then when you encounter the Roaring Knight in Deltarune, this plays.
Okay, slow it down, pal. Can we go with a different theory?
Forgotten Man.
No.
Then explain this.
No.
Or this.
No.
Genocide check text for Papyrus literally just says, forgettable.
Papyrus is going to be Dark World Sans, okay? Can we just leave it at that?
Got anything better?
Oh, now you want to be picky. Okay, how about this? Papyrus literally doesn't exist in this world at all, because no one else mentions a peep about him except Sans, and as social as Papyrus sounds, I don't think no one else in this town would not know him if he was around. And if you're wrong and that is Sans' house, Papyrus is totally not home at the end of Chapter 4. That house is empty. So what if Sans only brings Papyrus up as a way to bait the player? Like Sans knows for sure that Chris is possessed by someone from another world, and can figure out exactly which world that is if the person possessing them is so eager to meet someone named Papyrus or something like that. Especially since he never mentions Papyrus by name. Kinda like that lunch conversation from earlier where he alludes to Flowey but never mentions him by name.
But we know that Papyrus has also likely come from Hometown, since in bonus material, Papyrus says that he comes from somewhere with grass. Although, he doesn't know what the sun is.
So maybe he's born or created sometime in the game's story, like Gaster has a skeleton generator stashed away in the bunker. I don't know.
Actually, Gaster's an interesting point since the character created at the start of the game is the only time that Papyrus can be mentioned by name. When attempting to name the vessel Papyrus, Gaster will say that the name is an interesting coincidence which he only says for characters that existed in Undertale's world. This is the only time the game will acknowledge him by name and specifically in reference to his appearance in Undertale. Possibly the exception proving the rule.
Or all this is just wrong and Sans' little brother is actually just a completely different character. Like, the files totally say that he's talking about Papyrus there, but let's be honest, there's always a non-0% chance of this image becoming reality.
Well, I think we covered most of everything, so let's focus on the future. What should we all be looking out for going into Chapter 5?
Well, first off, we have a festival on our hands. Surely the whole town will be present, so any last Undertale characters that haven't shown up, particularly the papyrus-shaped ones, have this final shot to give us proof of hometown life. And that'll allow us to see if a single person mentions any missing skeletons. We should also keep an eye on Sans to see if any of his actions further test Chris or give him more information about Chris.
Or if he casually breaks the game any more time for the walls.
Right, and also if we see any further examples of Susie or Noelle breaking the game for the lulz. Oh, and speaking of Noelle, Sans can literally not share any substantial screen time with her or everything falls apart.
Wait, really?
Yeah, he talks about her in the Xbox version of Undertale and totally doesn't know her or Dessa's name. So if he learns their names in Deltarune, that would break continuity.
How do you know that? I thought you didn't play Undertale.
I was watching through a Let's Play every time you were talking. This Flowey guy seems super interesting.
Wow, funny you should say that because I have a whole video on that subject.
Wow, that's awesome. All right, if we're done here, then you can go. I gotta wrap this up.
Wait, I have one more thing to say.
What?
One more thing.
Okay, into the Shadow Realm you go. Right, thanks for watching all the way to the end. Special thanks to Fish Ebola for helping out a ton with this video's research, link to her channel down below. And thanks so much to our patrons. They can insert noun, Kaiser, Willpower784, Wonderland Snack, The Missing Samurai, Venforia, OrdX, and Blake_Jekyll. Seriously, I could not begin to express how much your support means to all of us here. Sorry for no video from me for a while. Still hoping to upload something else this month, a little bit more to my usual speed, and hoping to talk about Undertale again in like, I don't know, another 2 years.